Welcome to DRM News Global. There's been some significant news recently in the comic book world. The passing of a really transformative figure, Jim Shooter, at 73.
Yeah, quite a loss. His story is, well, it's bigger than just superheroes, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about power, creativity, the dynamics of a whole industry. So today we're going to take a look at the sources you've provided us, really unpack the life and, incredibly complex legacy of this guy.
From teen writer to controversial editor-in-chief and then independent publisher. Quite a journey.
Right. Our mission here is to pull out the key insights. How did one person reshape a medium so profoundly?
And that's exactly why Shooter's story is so fascinating. It really goes beyond comics. It's a case study, you can say, in professionalism, business, that constant struggle for creative control in an industry that was changing so fast.
Yeah.
And the sources you sent over, they show all sides, right? The huge achievements, the revolutionary stuff, but also, the friction, the polarization he caused sometimes.
Definitely. It's a legacy of innovation, but also intense debate. Okay, so let's dive into his start because it's pretty improbable. It really sets the stage.
Oh, yeah, the teenage prodigy thing.
Can you even imagine 14 years old, 1965, maybe 66, laid up in a hospital? Someone gives you a stack of Marvel and DC comics.
Right.
And Jim Shooter, even then, he had this kind of audacious self-belief. He looks at them and bam, sees this difference. Marvel felt alive, exciting. DC, to him, it was just lacking something.
A spark, yeah. He saw a problem.
So what does he do? With basically no training in script writing, he just does it. Writes and draws a Legion of Superheroes story on notebook paper.
Mails it off to Mort Weisinger at DC. Incredible.
And Weisinger puts him to work immediately. Didn't even know how young he was at first.
That's the truly wild part.
His first credited work, Adventure Comics, #346, July 1966. Just wow.
From that point, he becomes a fan favorite pretty fast, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Adventure Comics, Supergirl, Superman, Superboy, and Legion, of course. The sources really point out he brought this fresh, authentic teenage voice.
Which was needed. Adults writing teens can sound off.
Totally. And he wasn't just writing stories. He co-created key Legion characters. Karate Kid, Princess Projectra, Pharaoh Lad, the Fatal Five.
Some heavy hitters in the Legion mythos.
And get this, he wrote the first Superman Flash race. The iconic one.
That's legendary stuff. It's been done so many times since.
So what's really fascinating here, as you said, is someone so young identifying weaknesses in, an established field.
And then having the confidence to try and fix them.
Exactly. His entry at 14 was just unprecedented, so impactful, it kind of disrupted everything.
And you have to think, that youthful perspective, maybe that ambition, it probably laid the groundwork for later, right? For his whole drive to professionalize the industry.
Yeah, it suggests he wasn't just a writer. Even then, he was already seeing the bigger picture, maybe, identifying those systemic things.
A budding visionary, you could almost say. Able to see problems and, crucially, act on them.
Okay, so from this incredible teenage start, let's jump ahead. Fast forward to what many see as his defining time, Marvel Comics.
Right, the Marvel era.
After a bit of time in advertising and a return to DC where, it seems they didn't quite know what to do with him.
Yeah, that's interesting in itself.
He lands at Marvel, assistant editor, 1976. Now, the sources paint Marvel then as having energy, but also being kind of chaotic.
Oh, absolutely. Inconsistent quality, deadlines blown constantly, maybe a lack of clear direction after Stan Lee wasn't running editorial day to day.
And Shooter climbs the ladder fast. By early 78, he's editor-in-chief #9, taking over from Archie Goodwin. What was Marvel really like when he took charge? How quickly did things change?
Well, it was a critical moment. Marvel was big, sure, but internally disorganized, operating with that slipshod hobbyist tone we talked about.
Right.
So Shooter walks in, and the place needed structure badly. And he didn't waste any time. Started streamlining production right away. Basically got rid of those chronic delays.
So job one was just getting the trains running on time?
Essentially, yeah. But his core insight, I think, was bigger. He saw that comics, even though creative, could and should be run like a proper business. Professionalism, precision.
Makes sense.
He wasn't just fixing deadlines. He was trying to instill a whole business ethos. Accountability, consistent quality, and this is key, fair pay. That changed how people saw comics as a career.
And this all happens as the industry itself is shifting, right? Newsstand to direct market.
Exactly. His 9 years as EIC through the 80s coincided with that huge shift, and he understood that opportunity. He leaned into it.
And the achievements under him, I mean, the list is pretty staggering.
It really is.
He took Marvel's dense universe and pushed creators, challenged them to be more ambitious.
And the crossover events pioneered those company-wide events.
Secret Wars, obviously, hugely influential. That's where Spider-Man got the black costume.
That's the one, but maybe even bigger long-term,
Yeah.
the creator royalties.
Yes. That was groundbreaking for freelancers then.
Huge and expensive for Marvel, but he fought for it. That was a massive step.
And the actual comics produced during that time, some legendary runs, Claremont and Byrne's X-Men,
Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Walt Simonson's Thor, Roger Stern on Avengers and Spider-Man, just classic after classic.
Absolutely foundational stuff.
He also launched the new Universe line, co-created Star Brand, who was supposedly based partly on himself.
Yeah, that's the story. Ambitious project, the new universe. Mixed results maybe, but ambitious.
And the market share numbers. At one point, Marvel had something like over 80% of the U.S. comic market.
Dominance. Pure dominance. It's hard to overstate his impact on Marvel's success in that era.
So when we look at today's comic industry, the shared universes, the creator deals, all that, how much of that can we really trace back to Shooter? Was he genuinely setting a new course?
Oh, I think he was absolutely charting a new course. He built on things, sure, but he fundamentally reshaped the industry's identity and its business model.
Really?
Fundamentally, yeah. He took it from that sort of casual hobbyist feel and turned it into a professional business, a place where you could actually build a career.
So the integrated universe, the big events, the royalties.
All pillars of the modern industry that really bear his stamp. You know, you could argue that without his, let's say, decisive and, yeah, often demanding approach, the industry might not look like the sophisticated multi-billion-dollar thing it is today.
That structure, the direct market focus, the long-form stories.
A lot of that has roots in his tenure.
Okay, but for all that success, all that professionalization, there's the other side. The sources always mention the sharp elbows and attitude.
Yeah, that's unavoidable in his story.
He was known for a strong editorial style, right? Micromanagerial. And that, well, it polarized people.
Understatement, maybe.
He had strong ideas about how comics should be, and he pushed talent hard to follow his vision. So was that just the cost of progress? Or did that style maybe hold things back sometimes?
It's such a complex issue, isn't it? And the sources give you both sides. Like, look at the Phoenix situation in X-Men.
Right, insisting Jean Grey had to die over Claremont and Byrne's objections.
Exactly. That shows his conviction, right? Telling stories the way he wanted them told. Now, that definitely alienated some creators.
I can imagine.
But you have to admit, it also led to some incredibly memorable, powerful storylines. And then you have someone like Bill Sienkiewicz.
Who worked on Moon Knight, New Mutants.
Right. He said Shooter went to bat for freelancers in a way you don't see many people in editorial roles do today.
Huh. So there's that paradox again. Demanding, but also protective of freelancers in some ways.
Seems like it. He pushed for their royalties, remember? Even while being very controlling editorially.
It's complicated.
And Danny Fingeroth, who was writing and editing at Marvel in the 80s and 90s, he went even further, said something like, without him and Frank Miller, Marvel might not have survived into the 1980s.
Wow, that's a strong statement, suggesting the controversial style might have been necessary?
A necessary evil, perhaps, for that specific time. Was the progress worth the friction? Ask 10 people who worked there, you might get 10 answers. But he got results.
Until he didn't, I guess. His welcome ran out eventually.
Right. 1987, Marvel gets bought by New World Pictures, Shooter gets dismissed. Part of it was apparently his demands for editorial independence and, kind of ironically, issues around paying out those royalties he'd set up.
So the visionary pushes too hard and ruffles too many feathers. Classic story.
Pretty much.
But leaving Marvel didn't mean he was done trying to shake things up. Not at all.
Far from it. He had that same drive.
Immediately pivots to his post-Marvel career. Co-founds Voyager Communications in '89, launches Valiant Comics.
And Valiant was a big deal, very successful early on.
Yeah, he brought over former Marvel talent, reimagined old characters like Solar, Magnus Robot Fighter, even did licensed stuff like Nintendo and WWF.
F-Zero Comics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Plus co-creating Valiant's own big characters.
Yeah.
Bloodshot, Shadow Man, Exo Manowar, Harbinger, Archer, and Armstrong.
A whole new universe, really. And it caught fire for a while.
But that pattern,
Yeah.
the controversy, It followed him, fired from Valiant in '92.
Yeah, seems he couldn't quite shake that maverick architect reputation, even at his own company. And Valiant wasn't the last stop either. There were other ventures, right? Defiant Comics
Where he worked with Steve Ditko, amazingly.
and Broadway Comics. Though none of those lasted the decade. The industry was changing again, getting tougher.
Brutal market in the mid to late '90s, yeah.
But even after those, he stayed involved. Creative director roles, custom comics, kids' books, animation, screenplays.
And always a presence at conventions, right?
Mhm.
Often outspoken. Still commenting on comics history on his blog. Fans remember the high points.
Yeah. And then the news this year, 2024, stepping down due to health. His final work, that Schism remake from Defiant, got kickstarted, apparently coming out soon.
A long career coming to a close.
And here's a fascinating little detail about his business side. He sold his rights to Secret Wars and Venom back to Marvel for just $10,000.
Wow, really? 10 grand?
Yeah, and apparently he was very happy to do it, which is not what you usually hear from creators about rights.
No kidding. That speaks volumes about his unique, maybe pragmatic view of the business, doesn't it?
It really does. So connecting this all to the bigger picture.
Jim Shooter wasn't just writing and editing comics.
Mm.
He fundamentally reshaped the medium. A towering figure, you can't deny his impact.
Professionalizing the business.
Championing creator rights, even if it was complicated.
Orchestrating those huge events.
Launching major new publishers like Valiant that actually challenged Marvel and DC.
Mhm.
His whole career shows both that genius for understanding the market, shaping it, and, well, the friction his methods caused.
Yeah. And it sounds like he learned things too, competing with Paul Levitz at DC, getting Marvel management to follow DC on royalties even though it cost Marvel more.
Right. And you see tributes now from creators across generations, even people who clash with him, recognizing what he built, his foundational role.
So for you, the listener, thinking about how industries change, the role of these visionary, sometimes polarizing figures.
What does it all mean?
Well, Jim Shooter's passing, it really does feel like the end of an era, a truly transformative figure. His legacy is complex, no doubt, full of massive achievements and sharp disagreements, but it's a testament to his passion, his vision, his absolute will to change things.
Absolutely. And while, yeah, the methods were debated, the style could be polarizing, his impact on the business of comics today, from royalties to crossovers, it's still there. You feel it in every major publisher. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? When does pushing boundaries, trying to professionalize an art form, when does that justify a strong editorial style or even micromanagement?
It's the big question with figures like him.
Yeah. Just think about how much we take for granted now in comics, how creators get paid, how these huge shared stories are built, how much of that might simply not exist without his decisive and, yes, undeniably demanding hand.